I was bending down to put on my shoes when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Not a normal little buzz. It felt heavier. Strange how sometimes a simple vibration can make your stomach tighten before your brain even knows why. I wiped my hands on my dress and picked it up. A single message from Robert. Robert, accountant. Mary, call me now. Don't go to David's house today, please. For a moment, I thought I read it wrong. Maybe it was a typo. Maybe he sent it to the wrong Mary. I glanced at the mirror. There I was, completely ready for lunch with my son. Beige dress that David always said made me look classy. Pearl earrings he gave me on Mother's Day 10 years ago. Hair brushed, light makeup, a touch of lipstick to look less tired. It was supposed to be a happy day, a simple Sunday lunch. In the kitchen, an apple pie cooled on the counter, filling the whole apartment with the warm smell of cinnamon and baked apples. I'd been up since 6, making it because the kids loved it. That memory alone kept me going for days. If only I knew that pie was supposed to be my last gift. Before they tried to take everything else from me, I dialed Robert with trembling fingers. He picked up on the first ring. Mary? His voice was tight. No small talk, no polite tone. Are you home? Yes, I said slowly. What's going on? Why are you telling me not to go? I'm already dressed. Sit down, he said. Please, sit somewhere. I sat at the edge of my bed, the bed where I'd slept alone for 12 years since my husband died. The same bed where I'd cried quietly after David ignored my calls. The bed where I asked myself 1,000 times if I'd been a good mother or a failure. Robert, you're scaring me, I whispered. He exhaled heavily, like someone about to drop a weight they didn't want to carry. 3 days ago, he began. Your son came to my office. David? I asked. Why? Is he in trouble? Is he okay? He came as a new client. He didn't know I work with you. He asked me to review some documents, legal papers. He said they were to help his mother manage her finances. A chill ran down my back. My finances? That was the moment something inside me whispered. This wasn't help. This was a setup. Mary, he said slowly, the papers are written to transfer your house into his name, to give him full control of your savings, and to grant him power of attorney over all your affairs. He was planning to have you sign them today, at lunch. The room tilted slightly. You must be mistaken, I managed. There has to be a misunderstanding. My son would never. I wish I was mistaken, Robert said. The documents mention your full name, your address, your bank. It's you, Mary. There's no doubt. My eyes drifted to the photo frame on the wall. David at 5 years old, missing 2 front teeth, grinning at the camera. I was behind him, my hands resting on his shoulders. Back then, he loved me, or at least, I thought he did. Read them to me, I said weakly. Robert began. The first is a general power of attorney. It states that you authorize your son, David Taylor, to act on your behalf in all legal, financial, and property-related matters. I pictured myself sitting at his dining table, pen in hand, signing something I didn't fully read because my son knows best. But sometimes it's the people we trust most who place the pen that ruins us. The second document is a deed of sale. It says you're selling him your house for $1. $1? Yes, it's written as a family transfer out of love and consideration. Once signed, the house is legally his. I looked around my tiny bedroom, the cracks in the paint, the curtains I'd sewn myself after my husband died. The place wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Mary, there's more, Robert continued. Of course there was. The third document gives him full access to your savings account, all without notifying you. I thought of the $42,000 I'd built over decades, cleaning houses, working overtime, skipping meals, skipping clothes, skipping life, just so I would have something for old age. I didn't know the real betrayal wasn't the money. It was realizing how long he'd been waiting to take it. What do? I whispered. Don't go to that house, Robert said firmly. Tomorrow morning, come to my office. If you go today, if you sign even one of those papers, it could all be gone. The clock read 11:15, 45 minutes until lunch, 2 hours until I would have signed my life away. Okay, I said quietly. I won't go. We ended the call. I walked slowly to the kitchen. The smell of apple pie hit me like a punch. That pie was supposed to sit in the middle of David's table. They'd smile at me. They'd hug me. They'd say they loved me. They'd hand me the documents. I leaned on the counter, the world spinning softly around me. I called David. Mom, he answered brightly. Are you in the Uber? The kids are waiting for you. Fake excitement, fake warmth. David, I said, I'm not going to make it today. I'm not feeling well. A pause, small, but deadly. Not feeling well? What's wrong? Is it serious? He didn't sound worried. He sounded threatened. I just need to rest, I said. We'll reschedule. Mom, we already prepared everything. Lucy made your favorite. The kids are excited. Can't you just... I said we'll talk later. I hung up before he could push further. The phone rang again. I didn't answer. For the first time in years, I didn't answer. I changed out of the beige dress, put on my old pajamas, sat on the sofa with cold tea and a warm ache in my chest. And with every ring of my phone, one truth grew louder. Maybe my son never really loved me. Maybe he just loved what I could sign. The afternoon light slowly died, turning the walls of my living room from soft yellow to pale gray. The tea in my hands went cold. Long before I remembered to put the cup down. The phone lit up over and over again on the coffee table. Mom, why aren't you answering? We're worried. Please call me. Are you mad at us? Worried because they loved me? Or worried because their plan needed my signature? I couldn't tell anymore. Isn't it strange how love feels warm until the day you realize it was just a mask for something colder? As the room grew darker, memories started to surface. Not new ones, old ones, moments I'd lived, then buried under blankets of excuses. Now they returned with new meaning. 6 months back, David's birthday. I'd baked a German chocolate cake, his favorite since childhood. I remember spreading the icing carefully, feeling proud that at 69, my hands were still steady. I'd called him 3 times that week. Come by around 4, Mom, he'd said. We'll be home. At 4 sharp, I rang the doorbell. Lucy opened it with her standard polite smile that never quite met her eyes. Oh, Mary, you're here, she said. What a surprise. We weren't sure you were coming. Of course they knew. I'd confirmed the day before. Behind her, the house buzzed. People I didn't know filled the living room. Laughter, music, clinking glasses, decorations everywhere. A professionally decorated cake sat in the center of the table. I stood there, holding my homemade cake like an uninvited guest who brought the wrong dish. I noticed something else. No plate set for me, no extra chair, no corner saved. As if the celebration had been planned around me not being there. This is how betrayal begins, not with shouting, but with small omissions that whisper, "You don't belong here." They squeezed my cake onto a side counter, No one touched it. At about 5:30, Lucy approached, wearing her rehearsed gentle tone. "Mary, I think David is tired," she said. "It might be best if you head home so he can rest. But thank you for the cake. Really." David didn't walk me to the door. I went home with the untouched cake, sat alone, ate a slice while crying, telling myself I was overreacting. They're busy. Young people have different lives now. Lie after lie, told to myself by myself. Then last Christmas, David called on December 23rd. "Mom, this year we're keeping it small, just the four of us." My heart had clenched, but I smiled anyway. "Of course," I said, "I understand." That Christmas Eve, I watched holiday movies alone. I cooked a tiny dinner for one, kept my phone close, hoping they'd invite me last minute. They didn't. 3 days later, I saw photos online. A big tree, a long table full of food, Lucy's family, David's cousins, even neighbors, everyone smiling, everyone except me, the only one who wasn't there. When I asked him about it, "Oh, it was last minute, Mom. We didn't want to bother you, didn't want to bother me," as if loving me was an inconvenience. The biggest lies are the ones wrapped in polite voices. I remembered my last birthday. He called that morning. "Mom, get ready. We're picking you up." I dressed nicely, curled my hair, used my good lipstick, sat on the sofa from 11 o'clock, noon, 1, 2. At 3, I messaged him. "Are you still coming, honey?" No answer. At 4, "Sorry, Mom. Something came up. We'll do it tomorrow. Love you." Tomorrow never happened. A week later, he came by with a wilted supermarket bouquet. "Sorry, Mom. You know how life is." I smiled. "It's okay. Just seeing you is enough." But it wasn't. It hadn't been for a long time. It's heartbreaking when you realize you raised someone with love, only for them to grow up and treat that same love like a disposable thing. 4 months ago, I got the flu, a bad one, could barely stand, fever, chills. I was scared to be alone. I called him. "David, I'm sick. I have a high fever. I don't think I can go out. Could you bring me some medicine?" He sighed. "Mom, I'm in a meeting. Can't you ask a neighbor?" A neighbor. I hung up. I did ask a neighbor. Mrs. Helen from the 3rd floor. A woman who barely knew me. She brought soup, medicine, checked my temperature, stayed an hour. She called the next day to make sure I was better. When I told David, he said, "See, it worked out fine. We were just very busy that week." Busy, always busy for me, but never too busy to ask for money. "Mom, the car broke down." "Mom, uniforms are expensive." "Mom, the business just needs a final push." And I always helped, because that's what mothers do. We help, we sacrifice, we don't keep track. That night, though, I finally took out a notebook, a cheap spiral one. I wrote down every loan I could remember. $500, $800, $1,500, $2,000, $5,000, $13,000 in total. $13,000 given quietly by a woman who still doubts buying a new coat. My hands shook. And even after all that, it still wasn't enough. He wanted the house too. He wanted everything. My phone buzzed. "Mom, please, just tell me you're okay. We were worried sick. Why didn't you come today?" I placed the phone face down. There comes a day when the puzzle finally solves itself, and you wish you hadn't looked at the picture. I finally saw the pattern. They hadn't pushed me away accidentally. They'd been training me to accept less. So the day they took everything, I'd be grateful for anything. That realization hurt, but it also did something else. It woke me up, and what I was about to learn next would change everything I ever believed about my son. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My body felt like it hadn't slept, but my mind was strangely sharp, almost too sharp. I dressed in simple clothes. No earrings, no makeup. I didn't want to look like anyone's mother that day. I wanted to feel like my own person. At 8 a.m., sharp, I was sitting in Robert's office, clutching my handbag like it might float away. He placed a cup of coffee in front of me and sat down on the other side of the desk. "You came," he said softly. "Good. You told me not to go to my son's place," I replied. I need to know exactly what he was going to do. He slid a thick folder toward me. "Everything is here," he said. I opened it. The first document looked official and clean. Black letters, formal language, a general power of attorney in favor of my son, David Taylor. I read each line slowly. Full authority to represent Mary Taylor in all legal, financial, administrative, and patrimonial matters. May sign documents, contracts, deeds. May sell, buy, transfer, and manage all real estate and movable property in the name of Mary Taylor. Irrevocable, unless revoked in writing. My name printed at the bottom. An empty space for my signature. This alone, Robert said quietly, would have given him everything. This wasn't paperwork. It was a net, and I had been walking straight into it with a smile. I set it aside and picked up the next one, a deed of sale. On this paper, I agreed to sell my house, the small 2-bedroom place I'd fought for over 20 years, for the amount of $1. There was a paragraph dressed up in pretty words about love and consideration and family bond. Suddenly, those words felt dirty. This phrase here, Robert pointed at a line, is designed to make it look like a generous gesture. If you later complained, they'd say, "She did it out of love. It's all written here." And I'd look crazy, I murmured. "Yes," he said simply. The third document was an authorization giving David full access to my bank account. He could withdraw, transfer, close it, all without me. I traced my finger along my printed name. "How long has he been planning this?" I asked. Robert hesitated, then pulled out another sheet from a different folder. "David first came to see me 3 months ago," he said. "He didn't mention your name. He asked in general terms how to help an elderly mother manage her finances safely. I gave normal advice: open joint accounts, talk openly, legal safeguards." He sighed. "He came back 2 weeks ago," he continued, "this time with all these documents already written by another lawyer. He just wanted a second pair of eyes to make sure they were bulletproof. He still didn't tell me who the mother was. He met my eyes. When I saw your name on them, I knew. That's why I called you. Imagine finding out the person you love most has been preparing your downfall in secret for months." I swallowed hard. "Thank you," I said. It felt strange to say it. "Thank you for showing me my son's betrayal. But the truth is, without him, I would have walked straight into that trap." "What do we do now?" I asked. Robert straightened up like a soldier readying for battle. "Now we put walls around everything," he said. "Legally, high walls." For the next 2 hours, we worked. I signed a document making it impossible to transfer my house without 2 independent witnesses and a separate lawyer present. We created orders at the bank. Any transaction above a small amount required a direct phone call to me with a security code only I knew. We changed passwords for my bank, email, and social media. Robert wrote them down neatly and told me to keep them safe. We also drafted a revocation notice, just in case David had already started something behind my back. It declared officially that I was mentally and legally capable, and no one had any authority over my assets. When we finished, I felt like someone who had built a steel door after years of leaving the front entrance wide open. "There's one more thing," Robert said. "I asked a lawyer friend of mine, Paul Davis, to look into this. He found something you need to see." My stomach tightened. "More?" I asked. Robert nodded sadly. "He wants to talk to you himself," he said. At 3 o'clock, I found myself in a different office, a more serious one, darker furniture, certificates on the wall. A man who looked like he'd spent half his life reading lies printed on paper. Paul Davis stood to shake my hand. "Mrs. Taylor," he said, "please sit." He opened a folder with my name. "I reviewed what your accountant sent," he started, "and I did some investigating of my own. What I found is disturbing." My chest tightened. "What did you find?" I asked. 2 months ago," he said, sliding papers toward me, "your son and his wife applied for a $30,000 loan." "30,000?" I repeated faintly. "Yes, the loan was rejected, but what matters is what they used as collateral." My eyes scanned the document. There it was, my address, my house, listed as their property. "They used your home," Paul said. "They presented forged documents claiming the house belonged to them." I felt ice in my veins. "How is that possible?" I whispered. "It's in my name." "They had fake paperwork," he replied. "The bank officer checked deeper and saw you were the real owner. So the loan was denied, but the attempt is recorded. They hadn't just planned to take my house. They had already tried to spend it." He placed another document before me. "This is the police report from that bank," he said. "They didn't press charges since the loan didn't go through, but the evidence exists." The room seemed smaller. "They tried to mortgage my house before stealing it properly," I said. "Yes," he answered. "If you had signed the deed, they would have returned with valid proof, loan approved, money in their pocket, and you with nothing." He pulled out another printout. "This concerns your daughter-in-law." He laid it down, a newspaper article about a woman who convinced her elderly mother to sign power of attorney, then took the house and pushed her out. The daughter's name, Lucy Miller. My jaw tightened. "She did this to her own mother," I whispered. "Yes, and your son married her knowing that." This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't weakness. It was a pattern, one they had rehearsed before. I closed my eyes. It wasn't influence. It wasn't manipulation. David had seen this story before and still chose to repeat it on me. "What can I do legally?" I asked. "You have enough to press criminal charges," Paul said. "Fraud, attempted misappropriation, use of forged documents. Your son could face serious consequences. So could his wife." The idea of my son behind bars churned my stomach. "I don't know if I can do that," I whispered. "I'm not here to tell you what you can do emotionally," Paul said gently. "I'm here to tell you you're not powerless." Power. I hadn't felt that word in years. "I'll think about it," I said. "Take your time," he replied. "You're protected now. That's what matters." I left the office feeling like someone who had just seen an X-ray of a bone they'd been walking on while broken. The injury had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to look at it. Now I couldn't unsee it, and I had no idea. The deepest cut was still waiting for me. Back home, I spread all the evidence across my kitchen table, like I was assembling a puzzle of my own life. On one side, printed bank transfers, each highlighted $500. $800, $2,000, $5,000. Dates, promises, excuses. On another side, the forged deed, the power of attorney, the bank authorization. On a third, the denied mortgage documents, the forged signature, the failed loan attempt. I wrote one word at the top of a blank page: evidence. Underneath, I started listing everything. All the unpaid loans, every canceled visit, every sorry, something came up, every Christmas I wasn't invited to, every birthday I spent alone, every time they hid behind the kids, every time he told me he was too busy, the hospital incident where he told me, "Call a neighbor, Mom, I'm in a meeting." When I finished, the page was full. It wasn't just one betrayal. It was a long line of small, sharp knives spread over years. Sometimes the worst betrayals aren't sudden. They're slow, quiet, disguised as love. I opened our message history on my phone. I took screenshots of every financial request. "Just this once, Mom. I'll pay you back as soon as I get paid. You know I'd do the same for you." Lies, packaged neatly as love. I saved everything into a folder and backed it up twice. If I ever needed to fight, I would not be empty-handed. Then I did something I had never done before. I called the bank manager directly. My voice was shaking as I explained, "I fear my son might be trying to take advantage of me. I need protections." She listened patiently and said, "Mrs. Taylor, you're not alone. More people go through this than you think. You did the right thing calling us." Her kindness nearly broke me. After the call, I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. The fear was still there. Fear of losing my son. Fear of being truly alone. But another feeling joined it. Anger. Not wild anger. Not screaming anger. Cold anger. Clean anger. The kind that whispers, "No more." That night, I sat at my desk and wrote a simple sentence on a piece of paper. "I deserve better than this." I read it over and over until I believed it. Sometimes healing begins with one sentence, and sometimes war begins with it too. When I finally picked up my phone again, there were dozens of new messages from David. "Mom, why didn't you come? We had everything ready. Lucy is worried. Are you okay? Answer me or I'm coming over." Not concern, control, threat disguised as care. I didn't answer any of them, not yet. Instead, I typed slowly, "David, we need to talk. Come to my house on Saturday at 2 p.m. Just you. No Lucy. No kids. If you don't come alone, I will not open the door." He replied instantly, "Mom, thank God. We were so worried. Why no Lucy?" I typed back, "Because this is between you and me. Saturday at 2 p.m. or we never talk again." I had never spoken to him like that before. For the first time in my entire life, I set the rules. After a long pause, he wrote, "Okay, I'll be there." The days until Saturday moved strangely, slow and fast at the same time. I cleaned the house like I hadn't in years, washed curtains, polished the table, not for him, for myself, for the feeling of controlling something in my life. Mrs. Helen, my neighbor, noticed my energy. "You look different," she said softly. "Tired, but stronger." I just smiled. On Friday night, I laid everything on the living room table in 3 neat piles. In the middle, I placed a single photograph, David at 8 years old, standing next to me in front of this same house the day we got the keys. We were both smiling. We were both hopeful. I put that photo there for a reason, to remind me of what I had loved and what I had lost. Saturday came. I woke up at 6 a.m., even though he wasn't coming until 2. I showered, dried my hair, and put on a simple brown dress, not to impress him, but to feel dignified. I brewed coffee, took out 2 cups from the good set, the one I used for special guests. At 1:55, my heart was pounding. My palms were sweating. My house was so quiet, I could hear the wall clock ticking. Tick, tick, tick. At 2 p.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, walked to the door, and opened it. My son stood there, and for the first time in my life, I looked at him and saw a stranger. But what he said after stepping inside shattered the last piece of my heart. "Hi, Mom," David said, forcing a smile. He looked more nervous than I'd seen him in years. He stepped forward to hug me, his usual tactic to soften me before asking for something. This time, I stepped back. His arms froze midair, then dropped to his sides. The smile cracked. "Come in," I said, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. He walked into the living room. His eyes landed on the table, the files, the bank transfers, the forged documents, the single framed photo. He froze like a man walking into the scene of his own crime. "What is all this?" he asked, even though he already knew. I pointed to the sofa. "Sit." He sat slowly, like approaching a cliff edge. I sat opposite him, the table between us, like a wall of truth. I picked up the first stack, bank transfers. I spread them in front of him, like receipts from a lifetime of disappointments. "Do you recognize these?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "These," I said, tapping the numbers, "are the amounts I've given you in the last 3 years. Total is $12,800. Do you remember all these times, or should I read them to you?" "Mom, you know I've been under pressure," he said. "Money's been tight. I always told you I'd pay you back, and you never did." I cut in calmly. "Not once, not even a little." I set that pile aside and picked up the next. The power of attorney, the deed selling my house for $1, the bank authorization giving him access to my life. I laid them out one by one. His skin turned pale. "Where did you get these?" he whispered. "From the man who prepared them for you," I replied. "Robert, my accountant. The one you forgot was still on my side." His eyes widened. He wasn't expecting that. "Mom, it's not what you think," he claimed quickly. "We just wanted to protect your assets." I slammed my palm down lightly on the table. Don't you dare twist this into something noble. You weren't protecting me. You were preparing to erase me." He leaned back, breathing fast. I picked up the last pile. The forged loan application, the rejected collateral attempt, my house listed as theirs. "And what about this?" I asked. "Was this another protection plan?" He stared down, jaw tight. "How did you even see those?" he murmured. "The lawyer found them," I said. "Paul Davis. He talked to the bank." His expression shifted from guilt to fear. "You and Lucy tried to borrow $30,000 using my house as collateral," I continued, "with fake documents saying the house belonged to you." He stayed silent. Silence is the loudest confession when someone has run out of lies. "Then," I went on, voice firm, "after that failed, you prepared real documents to actually take my house legally. You chose a Sunday lunch to trick me into signing everything." "Mom, please." "No, you listen." I took a deep breath. I looked at him closely, really looked. The man sitting across from me was not my boy, not my little David, who used to grab my hand crossing the street, not the teenager who cried in my arms when he failed his math test. This was someone else entirely. I steadied my voice. "Did you ever love me, David?" I asked. "Honestly, did you ever truly love me? Or did you just love what I could give you?" He choked. "Of course I love you," he said through tears. "Mom, I just made mistakes. You don't understand the pressure we're under. Lucy's business." "Stop blaming Lucy," I snapped. "I know exactly who she is. I know what she did to her own mother. I saw the police report. I know she left her own mother homeless. And you stood beside her and thought, 'Let's do it to my mother too.'" His face crumpled. "It wasn't like that," he begged. "We thought your house was too big for you alone. If it were under my name, we could refinance." "Did you write that in any of the documents?" I asked. "Did you guarantee I could stay in my home? Is there one sentence that protected me?" Silence. "Exactly." The tears came harder now. "Mom, I swear we just wanted to make things easier. For you," I corrected. "Not for me." Then I said the truth I'd been holding for years. If you had come to me and said, "Mom, we're in trouble. We're scared. We owe money," I would have given you everything. I would have sold the house myself. I would have emptied my savings. I would have lived in a small room if it meant saving you. He stared at me, stunned. "You never had to steal from me," I whispered. "But you chose to." His face twisted with guilt. "Mom, I'm sorry. Please, please, I'll fix this." "No," I said quietly. "You won't." I picked up the final folder. "My documents. My house is now legally protected. You cannot touch it. Not with tricks. Not with signatures. Not with lies. My accounts are locked. And my will is updated." He blinked. "You updated your will?" "Yes," I said. "You're no longer my heir." He stiffened, as if the floor had vanished beneath him. "You can't do that. I'm your son." "You stopped being my son," I said softly, "the moment you decided I was easier to manipulate than to love." He stood, voice shaking. "Mom, I'll leave Lucy. I'll do anything. Just don't do this." "I don't want anything from you," I replied. "Not your choices, not your apologies, not your promises." I walked to the door and opened it. "Get out." He stayed there, frozen. "When the kids ask about you, what do I tell them?" He whispered. I swallowed hard. "Tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them their father tried to steal from their grandmother, or lie. You've always been good at that." His face crumpled as he walked slowly to the door. Then he turned one last time. "Mom, please." I shook my head. "No more." He stepped outside. I closed the door, locked it. Then I slid down to the floor and finally let the scream tear out of me. The scream I had held back for years. I cried for the boy I raised. I cried for the mother I had been. I cried for the love I kept giving to someone who didn't know what love was. And when the tears finally stopped, I stood up, straightened my back, and realized the truth. I had just chosen my dignity over my desperation to be loved, and I was still here, but I had no idea. The real battle hadn't even started yet. The house felt different after he left, quieter, but not the empty, aching quiet I lived in for years. This silence was different, the silence that comes after a storm, when everything is broken, but at least the lies are gone. For the first time in a long time, the air felt clean. Sometimes peace doesn't come from getting your family back. It comes from finally letting them go. On Tuesday, Mrs. Helen knocked on my door, holding a warm casserole. "I heard something on Saturday," she said carefully. "Voices, crying. Are you okay?" My instinct was to lie, to say yes, like always, to pretend everything was fine. But something inside me broke free. "No," I said quietly, "but I will be." She didn't ask questions. She didn't pity me. She just walked in, placed the casserole in the kitchen, and took my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You don't have to tell me anything," she said gently. "But you don't have to be alone either." She stayed the whole afternoon. A silly soap opera played on TV. We laughed at the dramatic slaps and fake cries. We drank coffee. We talked about absolutely nothing important. And for the first time in years, someone stayed without wanting anything from me. Sometimes a stranger sitting beside you feels more like family than the people who share your blood. Before leaving, she touched my arm. "If you ever need anything, day or night, just knock." Her words melted something inside my chest, something I thought had turned to stone. On Wednesday, I called Robert. I confronted him. I told him. I showed him everything. I removed him from my will. There was a long silence. Then Robert said, "Mary, what you did took more courage than most people will ever have. Most parents forgive until there's nothing left of them. You saved yourself." I didn't feel brave, but I felt awake. That night, I walked to the wardrobe and took down all the framed photos of David. The graduation, the wedding, him holding his first baby. I didn't throw them away. I'm still a mother, after all. But I packed them in a box, closed the lid, and placed it in the closet. Letting go quietly is sometimes louder than screaming. The next thing I did felt monumental in a stupid, tiny way. I changed the emergency note on my fridge. Before, "In case of emergency, call David." Now, "In case of emergency, call Helen or Robert," two people who had never once betrayed me. It felt like ripping out an old chapter and writing a new one. On Friday, I forced myself to go outside. I walked through the market, bought fresh flowers and ingredients for a meal I actually enjoyed. Not something the kids liked, not something I made hoping to impress David. For once, I cooked for me. I set the table nicely, one plate, one fork, one glass, and I ate without feeling lonely. That night, my phone rang, unknown number. "Mrs. Taylor?" a trembling female voice asked. "Yes. Who's speaking?" "It's Gail," she said. "Lucy's mother." My breath hitched. She continued softly. "I heard what happened. I wanted to tell you something important. You did the right thing. Please don't doubt it." I didn't speak. She did. When Lucy did the same thing to me, I didn't protect myself. I didn't want to believe my own daughter would hurt me. I signed everything. I lost my house, my savings, my life. I live in my sister's extra room now, my eyes filled with tears. I didn't protect myself, Gail continued, her voice shaking. "You did. That doesn't make you cruel. That makes you strong. And you didn't fail as a mother." I pressed the phone harder to my ear. "We loved them," she said. "They chose greed. That's not our sin to carry." I closed my eyes and cried silently while she spoke. When we hung up, I didn't feel ashamed anymore. I felt understood. Sometimes the only person who can heal your wounds is someone who carries the same scars. On Saturday, Helen invited me to a weekly group. "Just come," she said. "You'll like it." I didn't want to go, but I went. It was 6 older women sitting in a circle, knitting, drinking coffee, talking like they'd known each other for decades. At first, I felt out of place. Then I listened. Sons who never visited, daughters who only called when they wanted money, holidays spent alone, birthdays forgotten, and yet they laughed. They supported each other. They hugged freely. They understood loneliness like a language. One woman, Teresa, looked straight at me and said, "Blood makes you relatives. Respect and kindness make you family." That sentence hit me harder than anything David said in years. That day, sitting with those women, I realized something. Family is not decided by DNA. It's decided by behavior. And those women, they treated me better than my own son had in a decade. That week, I officially changed my will. Everything, my house, my savings, my belongings, would go to an elder abuse foundation. Attorney Davis nodded with respect. Your story will save others, he said. You have no idea how many seniors go through this. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in months. The first nights, without David listed as my emergency contact, were strange. Sometimes I woke up in the dark, heart pounding, thinking, what if I die alone? What if something happens and he doesn't know? Then I understood something important. If I died alone, it wasn't because I failed as a mother. It was because my son chose not to be there. That choice belongs to him, not to me. And that burden is no longer mine to carry. But life has a way of giving back what you lose, just not always from the people you expected. 8 months have passed since the day I closed my door on my own son. 8 months. If you had told me a year ago that David could go that long without a single call, a single message, a single happy birthday, Mom, I would have laughed and said, never, he loves me. But love was never what kept us connected. It was habit and illusion. Sometimes you don't lose your family. You just lose the illusion you had one. At first, the silence felt like a knife twisting in my chest every morning. I checked my phone constantly. I jumped every time it buzzed. I left the door unlocked once, hoping maybe, just maybe, he'd show up and say he was sorry. He didn't. Weeks passed, then months. And one day, I woke up and realized something strange. His silence didn't hurt anymore. Not like before, because slowly, painfully, I understood. His silence was kinder than his lies. I met with Attorney Davis and finalized my will, everything going to the Elder Abuse Protection Foundation. He said, your story will protect a lot of people. That sentence healed a part of me in a way I never expected. So I started volunteering there. Twice a week, I sit with men and women who whisper stories that mirror my own. My son took my car. My daughter drained my account. My grandson stole my pension card. Some cry, some shake, some stare at the floor as if the betrayal might jump out again. I listen. Then I tell them my story. I tell them survival is possible. That saying no is not cruel. That protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. My knitting group, they became my anchor. We celebrate birthdays with slightly burnt cakes and terrible singing. We bring soup when someone has a cold. We fix each other's broken buttons and broken hearts. Helen, she's more like family than anyone I've had in years. Sometimes Gail joins us too, Lucy's mother. Funny how betrayal connects strangers faster than blood ever did. One afternoon in September, I was choosing tomatoes at the supermarket, firm ones, the kind that don't turn mushy in a day. I looked up and froze. David, alone, no wife, no kids, no shield, just him, looking older, thinner, a man who had made choices that hollowed him out. Our eyes locked, just 1 second, but a whole lifetime lived inside that 1 second. Shame, regret, sadness, anger. I couldn't tell which emotion belonged to him and which ones were just reflections of my own pain. He opened his mouth slightly. Mom, that's what I imagined he'd say, but I didn't wait to hear it. I gave a small, polite nod. Not warm, not cold, just human. Then I turned back to my tomatoes. My hands trembled a little. My heart beat too fast. But I didn't fall apart. I didn't chase him. I didn't ask why again. I didn't hope he'd apologize. The question why had stopped guiding my life. Back home, my living room greeted me like a home built with new strength, fresh paint on the walls, plants thriving on the windowsill, my own clumsy little paintings hanging proudly, my will safe in the drawer, my documents secure, my house truly mine. No forged signatures, no secret loans, no sun plotting in the shadow, just peace. Sometimes I still miss the grandchildren. I wonder if they'll come to find me someday, when they're old enough to think for themselves. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I can't build my life on maybe. What I can build it on is this truth. I am not a failed mother because my son failed me. I am not worthless because someone treated me like I was. I am not broken because someone else was greedy. I am Mary Taylor, 70 years old, a survivor of the deepest wound a parent can feel. And I am still here, still standing, still choosing myself, still finding family in new faces. Today is Saturday again. The doorbell rings. The living room smells of coffee and fresh cake. Yarn is stacked in a basket. The good cups are set out, not for my son, but for the people who earned a place in my life. I open the door with a genuine smile. Helen walks in first, joking about her knees. Teresa follows with her lopsided carrot cake. Gail arrives last, holding a tiny potted plant for my window. We laugh, we hug, we knit terribly, we fix each other. We exist together. This is my family now. Not perfect, not blood, but real. Final CTA speech for the viewer. If you're listening to this story, maybe sitting alone in a quiet room, maybe feeling forgotten, maybe feeling used, hear me clearly. You are not a burden. You are not a mistake. You are not responsible for other people's greed. You have the right to protect your heart. You have the right to protect your home. You have the right to walk away, even from your own blood, if staying means losing yourself. Life after betrayal exists. It might not look like the life you imagined, but it can still be beautiful. It can still be yours, really, truly yours. Because sometimes the family you lose makes space for the family you deserve.